Hey everybody, James here with the Wisdom of Delivery Men. Just want to take a few minutes to talk about what's going on here in Iran. Got some time between my next deliveries and wanted to talk about the crisis, I guess you call it the crisis in Iran. So first of all, the question is who set off the bombs in Iran? Who is launching this terrorist campaign against the Iranians? The Iranians certainly seem to think so, that they know who it is. I'll get to it at the end of the video. The first thing I'll say is the Iranian government knows absolutely squat about who actually bombed them. They're just guessing. They're just basically coming up with stuff, probably through free association, no fact-based logic, no reason behind it. And the reason I can tell that is how they're actually reacting. They're basically just launching military strikes and threatening military strikes against everybody. They bombed the Kurds in Iraq. They bombed the Kurds in Syria. They are doing some stuff against the Iraqi government. They bombed a Sunni radical group, ISIS-affiliated group in Pakistan. They're sending ships out to threaten the United States because there's a crazy conspiracy theory that the United States did it. But I will tell you, the Iranians have no clue who set off the bombs. That's why they're responding so wildly. Now, there's a lot of tough talk coming up to Iran, and they have to talk that way because this is extremely embarrassing. The Iranian government is not supposed to let these kinds of things happen. It shows the depth of the security gap holes in their security infrastructure. The Iranian government wants to believe that they have complete control over their society, they have complete control over their people, and most of all, that they have complete control of their borders. Because if someone can sneak in and set up bombs, what else can they sneak in? You know, inflammatory leaflets, technology that can be used to undermine the government, et cetera, et cetera. So the Iranian government is panicking because this shows a very, very wide gulf in what they think their security is and what their security actually is. We saw one of those October 7th when Israel was shown how poor its own security preparations are and how arrogant its intelligence community had become and its military planners had become. Well, and they took a lot of flack for that, rightly so. Well, that's doubly true for the Iranians. The Iranians have an even more gerontocratic, entrenched, old guard military hierarchy than the Israelis do, as well as, a attitude, you could say, that the society is best run by people at the top, and the people at the top never make mistakes or rarely make mistakes. Well, they made a mistake here. So that's just a brief aside about Iran doesn't know who bombed them. They don't. And they're lying through their teeth when they say they do. Now, who actually bombed them? Well, who actually bombed them is a good question. So the supposedly, ISIS took credit. Supposedly it's an ISIS affiliate. Why now? Why are they doing it now? And the reason I don't think it's ISIS is twofold. One, why would they wait this long after basically the end of the war to set off bombs? Gains them no strategic advantage whatsoever, no propaganda advantage. Number two is bombs detonated by remote are not the MO of ISIS. They love their suicide bombers, right? They love their suicide bombers and then shooters. They do not like to use remote detonation because if you use a remote, someone's using the remote, which means that you have a trail that leads directly back to you. The advantage for a terrorist group in using a suicide bomber is that that person is not around to tell the tale of who equipped them, where they were trained, etc. Now, is it the Kurds? Likewise, first of all, what's the strategic gain for that? The Kurds don't want a war with Iran. They're already fighting in Syria. They're fighting in Turkey. The Kurds, yes, there's a large ethnically Kurdish population in Iran, but the Kurdish community, the Kurdish state now, has kind of written that area off. And again, we get back to the whole ethno-states. Only, Western people who are kind of, been on the spigot of terrible liberal arts educations and spend their times inside the Heritage Foundation all day long. would say that, oh, well, all Kurds want to liberate Iran because Kurds are Kurds and Kurds need to go in Kurdistan. Again, back to the ethno states. I mean, there's wider, deeper fissures. There's deeper lines of continuity in that area that bring people together. And the Kurds are not stupid. They've survived as a distinctive community in a quasi-nation for hundreds of years by being smart and being shrewd. And fighting Iran when you're also fighting Turkey and Syria, not a good strategy. Also, again, not in their MO. The Kurds have rarely, if ever, conducted terrorist attacks. And when they are, they're usually kidnappings of high-ranking officials. This group in Pakistan, supposedly, according to the Iranians, is funded by the ISI, Pakistani intelligence. Why? Again, there's no point. There's no strategic gain. The one group that has the biggest to gain, there's two potential players. The first potential player, people have talked about this a lot, is Mossad, is Israel. Now, why would Israel do that? Their strategic gain is they get to grief Iran and distract Iran and potentially trick Iran into fighting other Muslim countries, which would benefit Israel. Israel also has a theoretical reason to do it because Iran supported Hamas, who conducted the deadliest attack on Israel in its history. So it's a way of getting back at Iran or the faction of the Iranian government that actually supported Hamas. Now, that's possible, but I do believe that the United States and the CIA would block that. And again, Israel's MO is either targeted assassinations or using airstrikes and then denying that they did the airstrike. So if a bunch of Iranian power plants had mysteriously blown up in the night, totally would have been Israel. If a bunch of Iranian diplomats had been assassinated in Europe, totally would have been Israel. Well, who's left? And it's the card you don't want to play, and that's Russia. Now, why would Russia blow up a bunch of people in Iran? Why would they do it? Okay. Well, Russia is currently under siege internationally, international opinion, because of the war in Ukraine. They know that they're getting completely embarrassed and that they're losing any military or political advantage that they have while they're bogged down in Ukraine. Now that Russia is better mobilized, Russia could do a better job in fighting a war in Ukraine and would eventually wear down the Ukrainians, in so much as Russia is just a much bigger country than Ukraine and can win a war of attrition. However, Russia is not just fighting Ukraine in Ukraine. They're fighting a multinational, multi-billion, $100 billion war effort that is being backstopped by the United States and the United Kingdom, and to a lesser degree France, who are supporting Ukraine, sending them free weapons, free ammunition, satellite intelligence on Russian movements. There's volunteers that are still going, so that's free manpower, and a whole host of other support mechanisms. Now, Russia understands that, and they understand, at least a faction of their government, that the best way, how do you combat that? Well, you can't attack NATO directly, and all their ridiculous provocations didn't work because the United States and NATO called Russia's bluff. So the only way to get the United States and the rest of the European countries to pull out of their support of Ukraine is to distract them with something else. Well, where is the place that the United States and the West is always being distracted? The Middle East. Now, if Russia, did it have a hand in putting Hamas up to the attack? Maybe, maybe not. But it is watching closely, and just like the United States is hoping that this doesn't cascade into a regional war, Russia is hoping that it does cascade into a regional war. Because if multiple countries start fighting, if Israel fights Iran, the United States is fighting Iran, Iran is fighting Iraq, the United States and Europe is going to be so distracted by what's going on in the Middle East that they're not going to have time to focus or support Ukraine. Or at least that would be the theory. So why attack Iran? Well, Iran got really provocative right after Israel started bombing Gaza, and then they pulled back and decided to strike back at Israel and the United States using proxies. Militias, the Houthis, attackers. Well, that's not enough to start a regional war. But if Iran is actually bombing people and striking military targets with its military, that is enough. So Russia attacks Iran, probably contracts it out, blows up some people in Iran, and that causes Iran to go crazy and attack other countries around them, which brings in other countries, which starts the regional war that that Russia wants because it distracts the West. This is also backed up by remote detonation, right? Who uses remote detonation a lot? FSB, KGB. They love remote detonations. That is their preferred modus operandi for assassinating people or conducting strikes. So, again, in my opinion, I think Russia did it. I think they did it to stir up the pot and cause more chaos in the Middle East to distract the United States. Thank you and have a good day.